What's up? I know you want to know the story about this amazing pilot on United Airlines. And I got to say right up front, it just makes me wistful for the days I got to fly on United Airlines. I miss you, airplanes. All right, so this was pre-COVID. Um, I have flown a lot. I'm like close to 2 million miles with my butt in an airline seat. That is a very tired butt. That means I've boarded a plane a lot. And this might have been about a year ago, somewhere in there. I was in Houston and it was a rain delay, and we're all standing around as one does, waiting for them to start loading. And there's a gate agent who's talking, and no one listens to the gate agent if you've been on a lot of planes because they say the same things. And that's exactly what's happening this day. We're just Groundhog Day. And then I look up and realize something's different because it's not the gate agent who's talking. I look over there and it's been happening for about a minute, but it took me a while to tune in and realize, wait, the captain is talking. So I guess the captain came out of the plane with the captain's hat and the cool uniform, and this guy is like holding forth. He's holding the audience. And what really struck me was that he said thank you, but he said it in such a really cool way. Instead of just saying like, thank you, my name is Captain what's your smuff from I just made that up. There's no Captain what's your smuff from United, and I'd like to thank you for flying United. We love the friendly skies and hope you do too. He did not do that. It was so authentic. He just looked to us and he was making eye contact and just saying, I'm really glad you flew. And I remember he talked about the weather. Because you know how when you're late on a plane, you just want to be mad at somebody. And in this case, we were super delayed because of weather, but he came out and diffused all that. After he said thank you, he said, well, we're late. I'm late and you're late, and it's because of weather. But it's safe now, and we have a safe flight plan, or I don't know, he probably did it in pilot terms. And I've checked with the crew, they're ready. I've checked with the plane, it is ready, and we're going to start boarding soon. And we know we can get you to Denver safe. What? Who says that? And then he just gave us this very sincere thank you. He said, I wrote it down as why I can quote this. He said, and thank you so much. I'm so glad you are on one of my flights. And I'm standing there with my little rollerboard watching the rest of the crowd, like the audience. He turned that milling about crowd into an audience. And we're all kind of just struck with this guy. And my mouth is down like here because I've never, ever experienced a genuine thank you like that from anyone at United Airlines on any airline. And so I was struck and I went up and talked to, I wanted to introduce myself. And I just said, dude, like I fly a lot and I have never had anything like this. And he just gave me that genuine look, and he asked me about my family or where I was headed. I don't know, but he just connected with me. He took the time. And he said something like, oh, well, I think I told him I'm a frequent flyer. And he told me something like, well, I thank you, but my family thanks you. Without people like you, I wouldn't have this job. And I thought I had kind of melted before. But then with that, I kind of man crush. Oh, he said thank you. And it just blew me away. There's more to the story, but what is so fun is that captain, that United Airlines pilot, is in the house. Please welcome Captain Mark Hardcastle. Mark, I'm so glad you're here.
Brad, who's that guy you were just talking about? I want to go meet this guy. he sounds like a really cool fellow. I don't know anything about this.
Before I tell you the rest of my side of the story, and before I ask you to see if that's the way you remember any of it, because I know
Yeah,
you do that for your flights, all of them. And although it was unique for me, I can't imagine it was unique for you. Before I do any of that, can I tell them the rest of the story? Can I? Can I?
sure. Yeah.
All right, so we're on the flight, and I got lucky because I fly a lot, and they put me in first class. And I'm sitting there, and they're talking to the woman across the aisle, and I said, "Is it? Have you ever experienced that?" And she's like, "No." And I asked one of the flight attendants, like, "Who? What?" He says, "Oh, Captain Mark always does that." And there was almost a little eye roll, like, what an idiot holding the flight up. But also there was this admiration, like, yeah, and that means if he does that, I have to answer questions from yahoos like you a lot. And I'm just completely struck with the whole thing. And then as people are walking by, because remember I got upgraded, free upgrades. People are walking by, and I'm now I feel like I'm an interviewer. Have you ever seen that? No. Have you ever seen a captain do it? No. And everyone was a little bit jazzed, like it made an impact. So here's what I did. I started thinking about my job. I'm a motivational speaker for business audiences, and I thought this guy has just given us a lesson. That's you, Mark. So I got out a business card and my little pen. Or no, I think it was you. I learned later. You told me it was on my dang it. What's the ticket called?
Boarding pass.
Boarding pass. Sorry, it's been a while
Do you
since
mean
March.
this boarding pass right here?
Oh,
Is that
look!
what you're
Oh, he's
talking
got
about?
it. All right, so you can see it. Mark's got this. Um, Mark, you are so fun. I love that. I wrote on the boarding pass, like, dude, I'm a professional motivational speaker. Would you be willing to take a call from me or let me email you or meet? Or I can't remember what I said, something like that. And I kind of felt like I'm a badass, like, I am a motivational speaker. But
And
also, I'm thinking, like,
one of the best, by the way, Brad, one of the things I've so enjoyed by getting to know you is you're so completely unpretentious, but you really are a badass in the speaking world. CSP many years ago, CPAE Hall of Fame speaker. I mean, how many are there? 140 in the world Hall of Fame speakers, and you're one. And over there, you're one. And I have the great honor and privilege of being able to call you a friend. So it's thank you for that, and thank you for being who you are and for doing what you do for the business world. It's just awesome.
are you an airline pilot or are you after my job? There's more to the story. Stay tuned. So again, I sent him this note, and I'm like, dude, can I meet you? Sort of. I'd like to hear your side of the story. And then I get a card back. Oh, by the way, I can't go to the cockpit. It's closed, right? So I send it up through a very kind flight attendant, and here comes a note back on a United Airlines business card saying, "Of course, yeah, let's visit, and here's how to get a hold of me." But then he also sends one of his other business cards, his outside of United Airlines business cards, and it turns out, get this, Mark Castle is a motivational speaker too. Are you kidding me? Of course. And I'm thinking, like, for one, I kind of felt like I was such a badass by saying, I'm a motivational speaker. And he writes, well, not only am I flying your plane, you Yahoo, but I'm a speaker too. No, you didn't say it in that way. You were very generous. But of course, you're a motivational speaker, and I'm so glad we get to spend this time right now. Mark, hi. Thanks for being here.
Brad, thank you so much for the opportunity. We tried to we did connect right after that flight, and got together for a little while, and that was summer. Gosh, summer of 2019 seems like ages ago, and got together and had a great visit, and then thought, well, we'll get together again after the National Speakers Association conference, which happened in August. We scheduled a couple. We had to reschedule several times. Next thing you know, it's the holidays, and then it's first of the year, and then COVID hits, and so we haven't been able to connect since then. And I am so excited about the opportunity to just visit with you for a little bit today. And you're the one that started this. You reached out to me a few weeks ago and said, let's put this together. So thanks for doing that. It's a thrill just to be in your presence, man. Thank you.
You gotta lower the bar here, buddy. Um, all right, so I'm here's what struck me about your behavior that day. Behavior, I don't know. I can't think of the right word. You know, first of all, am I guessing right? You do that all the time. You always greet people.
Yes, I do. And it's not 100% of the time because the nature of my business is such that I don't always have the flexibility to do that frequently, not frequently, but once in a while when I get to the jet, it's already boarded. People are waiting there. They're tapping their feet, chomping at the bit. Okay, where's the crew? Where's the crew? So I just jump on the airplane,
Sure.
push all the buttons, twiddle all the dials, and get everybody airborne. That's the best service to passengers in that circumstance. But I make every effort to get there early enough to be able to greet my passengers before they board. Uh, there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. Much of it is just selfish. I just enjoy making that connection. I enjoy seeing my passengers eye to eye, giving them the opportunity to lay eyes on me, the guy who's going to be, carrying them from point A to point B. So yeah, that is my MO, if you will.
And that doesn't surprise me because you're so dang good at it. But tell me about the gratitude piece, because what really struck me was the way in which you said thanks for your business. Have you experimented with that, or I'm assuming that's always part of it too, or what? Tell me
Well, it
more.
is. It is. There's nothing magical about saying thanks. But I've been in the business for a long, long time, and I sit in the back frequently. We call it deadheading when we're being repositioned from one airport to another, and I hear what other guys do, and I've seen. You talk about looking at the audience, and I just see how people in the back react. The standard thing that you experience and that I experience when I'm flying as a passenger is I board the airplane without ever seeing the cockpit crew. I sit down, and then halfway through the boarding process, I hear this voice come over the PA system. Just kind of mumbling standard stuff about flying time such such, weather over there such such, and please pay attention to the safety briefing. Just and nobody pays any attention because everybody's trying to get settled. Now everybody has their little alcohol wipes they're wiping their seats down with, which I'd love to talk more about that in a minute. That's something that we really should talk about. But everybody's doing that. They're stowing their bags, and they're trying to not get run over by the people who are still coming down the aisle, and their minds are on other things. So I want to I want to connect before that circumstance, because what we say when we say thank you is important. It really is. When I said to you, I thank you and my family thanks you, that was genuine. It's not unusual for me to be walking down the jet bridge for whatever reason. It's already loaded up after we've done that presentation there. People have heard my little thank you, and and so I'm walking by, and I'm excuse me, can I come by you please? And they look at, oh, it's a captain, yeah,
Yeah.
uh, we can't go without you. And I love it when they say that, because I get to turn to them and say, yeah, and you're the reason I'm here. I would not be coming down the jet bridge if
Aw.
it were not for you.
Aw.
And I don't get to say that often, but I love it when I can, and because it's true. I If we didn't have passengers, there would be no point in me being there at all. And I'm very, very in touch with that reality. So I want to try to convey that. So it occurred to me at some point, and the way it occurred to me is another part of the story. Maybe we'll get to that down the road. But it occurred to me at some point that if I'm able to catch them in the boarding area before that all that chaos begins, then maybe I can actually convey the sense that I really do appreciate every person who's in the boarding area there.
What kills me though, Mark? Well, there's a couple things. One is how you just did it so effortlessly. I mean, I'm not kidding. When you looked me in the eyes and said thank you, I'm like I was a little puddle. It worked. And I don't mean in a manipulating way. It made me
Right.
feel good. But the other thing that is so striking to me about the way you handled me and that entire flight and all of your flights is that no one else is doing it. You said there's nothing magical about a thank you, but I would argue with you. There must be, because you flipped me out when you said thank you. The whole flight seemed to be delighted when you said thank you. So there's something magical. Like, do you have? Maybe you don't know it. Maybe you just do it so naturally you don't even know what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying. Uh, the reality is that that kind of thing just has never been part of what cockpit crews do. Um, what we do, what we always have done since the 1920s, is we get in the cockpit, we push the buttons, we twiddle the dials, and we operate the airplane from point A to point B. In 1934, when United Airlines became a thing, we hired people to take care of the customers. So even today, on the surface, when pilots come to work, they understand the importance of customer service and customer interaction and gratitude and all that. We got people for that. At the gate, I've got my gate agents. They take care of my customer service. Their title is CSR, Customer Service Representative. And on the airplane, I got my flight attendants who are there to take care of my passengers, make them comfortable, take care of their needs. So most pilots come in, they set up the cockpit, they close that now bulletproof door, and I have great faith that my onboard customer service staff takes care of that. So it's just never been on the radar of cockpit crews to do that. Well, again, at some point, it came on my radar that that's a way that we at United can differentiate ourselves from the rest of the industry, and that I can. It's not so much that I want to differentiate myself from other pilots, but what I want to do as the CEO of that flight is I want to give my customers the best experience I can possibly give them. So it just takes a little bit of thought. Here's the way I put it: when I often have the opportunity to talk to my co-pilots at 35,000 feet. We got not a whole lot else to do. Talk on the radio. Um, they'll ask me about it sometimes, and I tell them exactly what I just told you. The other thing that I point out is because of that reality, because it's never been something that pilots do. The bar is very low, and that's a good news, bad news thing. The bad news is pilots never do that stuff, so the bar is very low.
Right.
But the good news is the bar is very low, so it's easy to step over. So, because of my writing, speaking, coaching side hustle, if you will, it was easier for me than for most to pick up a microphone in front of an audience there, in the boarding area, and give a little. At that point, it was a 90-second speech.
Right.
Um, but everybody can't do that. A lot of people just are not comfortable with standing in front of a crowd, and that's okay. And what I tell my first officers is find something that you can do that is comfortable for you to just make one or two of our customers a little bit less uncomfortable today, and that will be to them, because they never see it. That's a big deal. So that's kind of the way I see it. What I do is
Yeah.
not a big deal, but it's because it's so unusual. Nobody sees it. It looks like a big deal to you.
Yeah, you're wrong. And, we got some people. We're gonna bring in a couple comments. Here's Judy says Mark takes personal responsibility for the care and each and everyone on his jet. Judy, how cool are you? And here's Bruce says Mark is the real deal. Well, apparently you got some fans, my brother.
I do.
Here's why you're wrong.
Okay.
I think I wouldn't like you if you weren't doing exactly what you're doing now, which you're very modest and you deflect and you say, it's easy. But it's just not easy because not enough people are doing it. But I'd still say it's crucial. And to say, well, the flight crew doesn't have experience taking this on as one of their duties, they ought to change that, right? It's about time to get going. Right?
Well, this is
From what I'm
so.
reading, airlines need every ounce of customer service, and you just do it. It's time for everyone else to step it up, yo.
I don't want this to turn into a commercial for United Airlines, but I you just threw me this softball. I've got to take a swing. Um, our top level management. I'm coming up on 30 years with United Airlines. I waited 25 years for this management team to show up. They showed up about 5 years ago, and the vision that not our current CEO, but the guy who just retired, Oscar Munoz. You've heard of Oscar. You've seen his videos. He and his successor, Scott Kirby, both recognize that getting flight deck crews, pilots, involved in customer service is something that the industry has lacked, and that United could take the lead in this. So, for the better part of a year now, that has been corporate policy: is let's put it on the pilot's radar. the way I mentioned to you a few minutes ago, it's just never been on our radar. So these guys, they're visionaries, and they recognize that. So let's put this on the pilot's radar. So I would offer to you that as much flying as you will be doing once COVID is over again, it's entirely likely that yes, absolutely. Um, it's entirely likely that you will run into something similar to what you saw before on an increasing frequency at United. I don't know that you'll see it at American or Delta or Southwest, but it's entirely likely that you'll see this as you fly your 2 million miles with United. And again, I thank you, and my family thanks you for your business, man.
You're
That is
doing
just
it
so awesome.
again. I'm getting that.
Yeah,
I'm getting that feeling. So,
yeah,
yeah, okay, I hear you. And go United.
yeah, yeah,
But I got to say, you said as much when I met you right after that event, which I didn't realize was so long ago. And you said it's getting better, and I believe you because you know, and I don't.
yeah,
But not fast enough, and not to the depth. And the, my tagline in my business has been similar for years. If anyone were to ask me what I speak about, I say I talk about the people side of business.
yeah,
And when I've thought so much about you and that interaction, and what you did is you made my business personal. You made your business with me personal. And United Airlines, listen up, get ready. United, are you there? Are you I think you need Mark Hardcastle, to train more of your peeps and spend more time in front of your people. And P.S. If he's unavailable because he's busy, bradmontgomery.com. But you are
okay, so commercial
exactly
for
what
United
not
Airlines
just
and Brad Montgomery.
not just United, like every business needs what you have. Mark, I was thinking about it. If you and I went to Target, right, or whatever,
Yeah,
and the person scanning our items is checking us out and looked me in the eye and said, "Oh, thanks for shopping here. If you didn't shop here, I wouldn't have a job here." It would be just as powerful as if a pilot did it.
yeah, totally.
The barista at the Starbucks, the person who delivers an Amazon package. I love all these people, but if they were to look me in the eye and say, "Thanks for ordering and picking UPS, because if you didn't, I wouldn't have a job." Can you
Yeah.
imagine what that would do for all of our loyalty?
Yeah, yeah. And so, like I say, well, the way you've just put it is kind of different. Um, you know, I don't know that the package deliverer at Amazon is taught to ring the doorbell, wait for somebody to answer, and then say, if you didn't order, I wouldn't have a job. The barista at Starbucks probably a little more likely. Um, but yeah, I get it. I see that,
I
and
just think I think you're special, Mark, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but there is something that was really unique about you, and I hear that you're training the people next door. So that's the first officer, right? Do I have the language right?
yeah, yeah,
So you're
yeah, exactly.
you're informally coaching them. It sounds like while you're flying, and keep going.
Yeah,
But man, I just think you got a little secret and some secret sauce going, and it's not just the words; it's the way you felt it. I want to put a teaser out there. You hinted, Captain Hardcastle, about flying during COVID and the wipes.
yeah.
I wanted to put it out there. If anybody has any questions about what it's like to fly or what you'd recommend, or is it terrifying, or whatever, here's your chance, yo. Put your comments in the or questions in that comments. But I have not flown since March. Mark, you're flying all the time. What is it like?
Yeah.
And are you scared to death? And is it? I've seen lots of different things. I've seen that the airplanes themselves seem pretty safe, but I will worry a little bit more about the airports. Can you address this from your personal
Yeah,
experience?
yeah, with pleasure. First of all, I put on your Facebook page just about an hour ago a link to an article from the U.S. military describing a study that they did with DARPA, Department of Defense, and several other agencies to look at just what really is going on inside an airplane when we're flying along at 35,000 feet. And so the short answer to your question, am I scared to death? Absolutely not. Do I enter my airplane with complete confidence that I'm going to be okay? Absolutely. And I'm not stupid about it. I mean, I know I know what the risk is, and I try to be cognizant of that. I mean, you had a guest on just a few days ago. Was the epidemiologist? What was her name? Doctor.
Dr. Elaine Morado.
Yes, and she said some really important things. I really enjoyed her presentation. One of the points she made is life is not without risk. You cannot reduce risk to zero. And flying is the same way. You know, you want to get from point A to point B, you want to cross the country in 6 hours or less, need fly. And that means you get on the airplane with a whole bunch of other people. So there is some risk involved. So I wear my mask, and then I get in the airplane, and knowing what I know, I am completely confident that I am going to be okay. So let me just take just a minute to talk about that reality, what I know. The first thing is the filtration in the airplane. That study that I sent you the link to, and I would encourage you, I would ask you to make that link available to the people who are watching the video. Go read that article. And the conclusions of that study were that the risk of catching COVID on an airplane is not zero, but it's darn close to zero. It's really approaching zero. So when you're breathing at 35,000 feet, half the air that you're breathing comes in from the outside, and the air is pretty pristine up there at 35,000 feet. So that's clean air coming in. And then the other half of the air has been through the cabin once, back down into our filtration system through some HEPA filters that remove 99.97% of virus-sized particles from the air. So it's very, very clean air that comes in. Something that is a misconception is if you're sitting in row 28, is that if somebody coughs up in row 7, that cough is going to come right back over you as it washes over you in the airplane. Well, that's not true at all. The source of our air comes in, like I say, from our filtration system into the ceiling of the airplane and runs along the length of the airplane at the top, but it comes into the cabin straight down past you and then out the sides. So the people in the front, you don't breathe their air, and vice versa. So you're getting very, very good air coming from right overhead,
Right?
right past your face, right down out the sides of the airplane. So if somebody coughs 2 seats back, uh, this study proved that those particles are not going to come anywhere near you. One of the things that one of the questions that has come up is some of the airlines blocked seats. Uh, yeah, we don't do that at United. It makes no sense to do that. From my perspective, I appreciate the epidemiologist's opinion, and she chose an airline to fly on that had blocked seats. I understand that caution. But when I look at that, and I think, okay, what they're telling us is we got to be 6 feet apart to be socially distanced to be safe. Well, if we block all the center seats and I'm on the aisle, that means that if somebody's on the window, they're less than 2 feet away from me anyway. The person in front of me is less than 2 feet. The person behind me, the person across the aisle, they're all less than 2 feet away from me. So I'm not gaining any benefit from having the center seat blocked. So at United, we recognize that reality, and we tell everybody, come on, you want to go cross country? The plane's full. We'll take you. You might end up in a center seat. And United was one of the first, by the way, this is a little sidebar, was the first to eliminate change fees. And so you make a reservation on an airplane that's really full and you don't want to sit next to somebody, and we'll
Right?
tell you, our airplane is more than 70% full. If you want to change, change. No
Right?
harm, no foul. Let's find you another plane that you're comfortable with. So
Right?
we do that.
Mark, I assume
And
right now United Communications and PR is listening to you thinking, we got to get this guy on our team. You are the
we
voice
got
of United. But
we got a lot of guys,
admit
we got a lot of
this.
people telling us.
Admit it. Yeah, I heard you. Totally safe. And when you're in the back, you feel totally safe, even if it's full. But just admit it. When you're in the cockpit, you guys crack the window just a little bit. You do, right? Come on, just a little.
Yeah, I put my elbow on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have your dog
put
hang out.
one end of the stairs down 35,000 feet.
All right.
No
Well,
matter.
tell me a little bit about that was helpful for me. You feel totally
Okay.
safe, and you gave me some reasons
Yeah.
why. What about
Yeah.
all the things that are peripheral to getting on and off the plane? The
Yeah.
airport, and then you got to get to and from a hotel. And I've seen you
Right.
guys. You guys get in a little van with 6 of your teammates or whatever. What about all that stuff?
Right. So Same rules apply with us. It's policy at United Airlines that we wear masks anytime we are on duty. They haven't gone so far as to say, okay, when you're at home around the dinner table, you have to wear a mask. They don't do that to us. They remind us of the risks of that, but uh, from the time I show up at the airport parking lot, and this is true for all United Airlines employees, I'm expected to wear a mask if I'm going to be around people. So I put my mask on as I enter the door of the airport. And from then until the time I get into the cockpit and close the door, I'm wearing my mask. All my flight attendants wear their masks. All my baggage handlers wear their masks. Every employee at United Airlines wears their mask. And that was actually part of that DARPA study that one of the conditions is that for me to be able to say it's that safe, everybody on the airplane has to be wearing masks. And that's also United policy. If you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine, but you can't fly on our airplanes. It's just that simple. So there is that reality. Does that
Yeah, but
address your question?
walk me through this. I'm not sure how much you experienced it. Maybe when you're deadheading, but I'm thinking about that time I'm milling at gate 16 with another 50 or 100 people.
Uh-huh.
Do you feel safe in that situation?
Brad, it's like we said a while ago. You can't eliminate all the risk. Here's the deal. And by the way, I have a habit of saying, "Here's the deal." So we should run a contest here. Somebody should be counting the times I say, "Here's the deal," and the winner gets some kind of I know. I'll send them
Cha-ching!
a free copy of my book. How's that? Um, uh, in the gate area, I still wear my mask, and we ask all of our passengers to wear the mask. And in fact, it's law in Colorado right now. Everybody in the airport has to wear a mask, and either they comply with the law or they don't. Uh, I minimize the things that I touch. I'll tell you this: all of those seats that all of those passengers are sitting in, they have been cleaned with disinfectant. We come through there and we wipe those seats, and we have one of those robots that goes into the gate area. And in fact, I haven't seen the robot in the gate area yet, but what I have seen is I have seen our cleaners come through with electrostatic sprays, the same thing we spray in the airplane. We spray that disinfectant on those seats uh, in the boarding area, and that disinfectant stays there on the surface. So hours later, if somebody touches that and they happen to be infected, well, that disinfectant is still there and it's still effective. So there's just a lot of things going on in the airport that people don't see that help keep us safe. Um,
Well, I
you're in
gotta
line at Chick
say,
Fil A, and you're I don't know you're like in line. You're real close to people. I can't speak for those people, but I can tell you we make extraordinary efforts in the airport, in the boarding area, on the airplanes to keep you safe.
I gotta say, you're. Thank you for that. I asked you a serious question. You gave me a good answer. Um, you're the tone is somehow reassuring. You're just so confident, and I am listening to the details, but just having you say like, "Yeah, Brett, it's okay. You can't get risk to zero, but you feel okay about it." That makes me feel good.
Yeah, I do, and I'll tell you, Brad. I know you want to keep moving here, but um, I have flown a lot since March. I had the honor and the privilege and the sad responsibility on 4 different occasions to fly airplanes to go park and take them out of service, put them into storage, while
Oh,
other people weren't flying at all. And in the meantime, when I flew 737s, I remember flying one that had zero passengers on it. It was a scheduled flight from Orlando to Newark, had zero passengers on it. I've flown planes with anything from zero to full capacity of 177 passengers on my 737. During the summer, that number was averaging around 30, 35 passengers on this whole airplane. Um, so I have been flying. The point there is that a lot of people were not. I, I personally have been flying a lot, and uh, here I am. Still upright and warm to the touch.
question:
Yeah, yeah.
have you had COVID, Mark?
I have not. It has visited my house.
Good.
My 20-year-old had it,
Oh,
and this is a good thing for you and your listeners to understand. Um, when I had COVID in the house, my 20-year-old had it. I was required by United to inform my flight office that I had COVID in the house.
Right.
And their response was, don't come to work. Now, the standard run for the virus is 10 days. And they said, okay, here's the date that Cameron started showing symptoms. From that date to this day, that's 10 days. Uh, we need to know when that ends. And at day 10, if he's symptom free, then you, Mark, begin your quarantine of 14 days because he could have exposed you on day 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So I couldn't fly during his 10-day illness, and I couldn't fly for the 14 days beyond that. 24 days, United would not let me get near an airplane. And I never caught it. So at the end of the 14 days, I was cleared to go fly. Now, they made me whole for that. I missed 3 trips. So not only did they say, no, Mark, you can't come, but we're going to make sure that you're okay. And they paid me for those trips. So they encourage us to comply.
Ah,
You know,
nice.
if somebody else in the company had a family member who got sick, there's no way that United would know that unless it was self-reported. So, absent the situation where United makes us whole, I can imagine a scenario where somebody might think, you know what, man, I, I gotta put bread on the table. You know, we've taken these reduced hours. I need to go to work. Well, United makes sure that there is no incentive for that. So
Go
I
United.
hope that understanding helps you as well. The
That
people are
that
not your
that
flight crew
does
is not
help.
going to come to work sick.
That does help, and yeah, that's good news.
Yeah.
Um, what's that? A transition? Okay, let's do it now. I'm going to pivot, if you don't mind.
Okay. I don't mind at all.
You called it a side gig, but you got something cool going on when you're not flying. Symphonyofyourlife.com. You're a speaker, and I know you have a book out, a new book, right? Is that
Yes.
right? Tell me.
Yes. Yes. Well, um, one of the you asked earlier before off camera if I'd been speaking. I have not spoken since March. I did a workshop remotely for a company down in Florida. It was the last event I did. Right about that time, somebody invited me to edit a memoir for 10 Vietnam veterans.
Oh,
And long story short, these 10 guys each wrote one chapter and presented them to me to edit. And now keep in mind, this is 50 years after the fact. So these guys are starting to get on up in years. They wanted to get their stories out. They had the opportunity to do so, but they're not writers. So I dove into this thing and got buried in this project from March until, gosh, uh, earlier this month, as a matter of fact. We completed the project. It went to print, and here it is:
ooh,
Echoes of Our
nice.
War. Uh, Vietnam vets reflect 50 years later. Just went to print. It's available on Amazon, and I am absolutely thrilled to death with how this thing turned out. It's a substantial book, um, and I learned stuff about Vietnam that I did not know. And something we all know that Vietnam veterans tend to be kind of quiet about their experience. I
Mm,
learned why, and this book enabled these veterans to find their words that they have not had for 50 years. And in this book, they unleashed those words without remorse.
mm.
It's a powerful, powerful book. But that's what I've been doing. I haven't been speaking, but it's
You've
probably
been
a good
busy.
thing because all of my time outside of United has been taken up by this editing project.
Mark, from your language, it made me wonder: are you a vet?
I am.
And
I am.
you served where? When?
I was in the Air Force, active duty from 1982 to 1991. I flew as a pilot 4 years. I was a trainer for T-37 jets, primary jet trainers, took guys off the street and taught them how to fly jets. My follow-on assignment after that was a reconnaissance platform. The designator for the airplane was RC-135. Flew that right into the Persian Gulf. Flew a
Mm,
handful of combat missions in the Persian Gulf War. and then finished out in the fall of 1991. Came right across the street into United Airlines.
Captain Mark Hardcastle, United pilot, and badass. Well done.
No, you are the badass.
I
We
would just,
established that at the beginning of this presentation.
I'd be lying, but I can't tell you how much I would love to be able to say and mean it. Yeah, I flew some combat missions.
Yeah, just
That's
throwing it
so
out there.
cool. So the
Yeah.
RC 135, that's the one with the big frisbee on top of it?
Nope, nope.
Nope.
Similar airframe. That airplane was based on the old Boeing 707. My airplane was also based on the old 707, but I didn't have a big frisbee on the top. Mine had a long nose and big fat cheeks that had sensors and receptors and that kind
You
of
were
stuff.
flying a squirrel. Nice.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
flying a squirrel. Yeah.
couple. Do you have time for a couple more random questions?
Oh, sure.
737 Max. Are we? How do you feel? How do people in your world feel about that?
Um, Interesting. You should ask about that now. Have you seen the headlines lately that the Max has been, in fact, recertified to fly?
I have, and I don't mind telling you that I'm kind of glad that I'm not flying because I don't know enough to know if I'd be safe getting on one. I'm
Yeah.
assuming people like
Let me
you
try.
know.
Let me do what I can. Let me do what I can to put you at ease. I'm I'm excited about the fact that it's out, and I'll tell you, Brad. I would like to think that as much as I've been raving about United over the course of the last half hour, 45 minutes, uh, I'm not a shill, and I'm not just saying this because we need people to come fly the Max. That Max has been through the ringer for the last 18 months. It's been examined by all the experts from all the government agencies.
Mm.
The guts of the airplane have been redesigned on multiple levels. Part of the examination found some design flaws that were not evident before the tragedies that put the airplane under the microscope before. So that thing's been gone over with a fine tooth comb and fundamentally recertified as an aircraft type. So FAA is happy with it. Boeing's happy with it. The software that runs a number of the systems has been completely redesigned. So the airframe itself is airworthy. Now, the next question is, what about the guys who are going to be flying it?
Yeah, for example, the
Well,
Mark Hardcastles of the world.
you're right. So part of the recertification process is because some of the guts of the airplane have been redesigned, is we have to be retrained on that. And United has already got the first batches of 737 pilots lined up for training. We're first going to be flying out of Denver and out of Houston. Those two bases is where the 737 MAX is going to be. I happen to be based in Denver, so I was in the first cohort of pilots scheduled for training. My training will happen, I think it's the second week of January. Um, and we'll all be trained in Denver by the end of January. And that airplane start flying sometime, as I understand it, don't quote me on this now, but sometime in the first quarter of next year. And I will have absolutely no qualms about being in the cockpit flying that airplane. And yeah, come on out. Let's go fly that thing, man.
That was a good answer because I would have been horrified after all the positivity if you would have said, "Oh, it's a nightmare. I'm scared to death. Don't get on
No,
it."
no, not at all. Not at all.
That would have blown me
That's probably
away.
safest airplane out there right now because it's been through such a microscopic examination from stem to stern. So yeah, let's go fly it.
Boeing, by the way, if your people are having a little morale issue, Captain Mark Hardcastle available to speak to your team. All right, so how's this for random questions? For years, I have wondered as I sit in the back, and the captain comes on, and I thought you did such a good job. You described yourself when you're deadheading, listening to these announcements. They kind of blend in because we already know what they're going to say. But
Yeah.
my question to you is, who cares? Meaning, when you guys say like, "Well, the wind is out of the southeast at 4 miles an hour," is there anyone in the back like, "Oh, 4 miles an hour. That's terrific." Or like, who's listening to all of that? You know, we're going to be at 34,000 feet. No, at 35,000 feet. Do people know about that besides the captain sitting in the back?
No. So here's the thing. Okay, so that's twice in 2 minutes. I've said, here's the thing. Um, you remember a couple of things about my gate announcement. You
Yes,
remember a couple of
I
things. You
remember all
remember,
of it.
remember that? Well, so it probably would not come as a surprise to you, being the speaker that you are. You know how we create speeches. Now that was a 90-second speech. It's up to a little bit over 2 minutes now because I address COVID at the podium as part of
Oh,
my
nice.
presentation. Um, and so you give some thought to what you want to say in front of a crowd. So I asked myself, self, do these folks care that we're going to be cruising at 35,000 feet? And the answer I came to was no. They probably care about the temperature, so they'll know if they need to pull out their jacket when they get there.
Hmm.
Um, and they want to know if it's raining. So that's what I tell them at the podium. Uh, you know, uh, in fact, it's the next to last thing I say. Folks, we're going to have a great flight over to Orlando today. Weather in Orlando is great. The currently reporting partly cloudy skies and the temperature is 85 degrees. And I'm done. And I move on to the next thing because
Nice.
those are things that I think you probably care about. Um, now, having said all that, when we get to altitude and we level off, there's going to come a point where I'm going to do the little ding. And you know what that little ding
Yeah.
means, right? You could probably give the little speech. So there are some things that I am required to say at that point. And I think it's just interesting to let the folks know that, hey, folks, we've just leveled at our cruising altitude, which today happens to be 35,000 feet. And air traffic control has told me that it's going to be a good ride. So now I'm going to turn the seatbelt sign off for you. Ding. And which means that you're free to get up if you want to. And that's all I say about that. I mean, it's a fun little fact that maybe there's 175 people on the airplane, 3 or 4 care what altitude I'm at, just because they can tell their friends, hey, we were at 7 miles above the ground going from Denver to Orlando. Okay, so that's kind of my thought
Yeah, I get it.
process.
Well, here's what by the way, fun fact to know and tell. When I hear the little bing, here's what I hear. Oh, Brad, finally you get to pee. That's all I hear. I
Yeah,
feel like you're
yeah,
coming on.
so
Brad, your bladder's going to make it. You're going to make it, Brad.
yeah, yeah,
Here's
and we're cognizant of that. We
Palmo,
understand that.
you're funny, man. He says, flying into Calgary, I always sit near the rear of the plane. Never heard of a plane backing into a mountain. Mark, what you don't know is Palmo's a really funny guy.
I can see that's
Palmo,
true.
you you funny man.
Yeah.
Dude, you were like a tonic. You were a tonic when I first
Oh,
met you. You're like a balm right now. Hearing you with your confidence of things that are, I think, a little upsetting to the rest of us, like Max and COVID. You're just the guy who says you're fine. I'm gonna take care of you, and that is what we need, Captain Mark Hardcastle. I'm so grateful.
well, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to say that to folks like you who, you know, you put bread on my table, you feed my kids, man. You put clothes on their backs, and I so appreciate that, and I want you to know that. So,
Oh well, United. Dang it, are you? This guy's got the secret sauce. Use it more. Pull him in front of your team. Figure out a way to turn what he's doing into a curriculum because he's good for you. Check this out. Judy says, the most positive person I know. What? Judy, I'm not surprised because I can't think of anyone more positive than Mark. Mark, I like to ask everybody who's kind enough to say yes and to come on this silly thing with me to finish by saying, what gives you hope? And I don't have any direction for that, meaning you can talk about anything you want, but you're a experienced guy, you're a bright guy, and you have this really big heart. So I am dying to know what gives you hope.
well, I'm gonna talk about two things. One's kind of a micro thing, and the other's kind of a macro thing. We talked a lot about how I fly for a living, and we spoke about how I waited 25 years for this management team to show up at United Airlines. And I got 3.5 years left to go before I have to retire by law. And so I'm excited about having, for the first time in my career, a management team that are visionary, entrepreneurial, risk takers who are interested in prospering the enterprise. For those first 25 years, I didn't have a single CEO who was interested in prospering the enterprise. He always had some other agenda. These guys seem to be the real deal. And I appreciate their vision. It's inspiring to me to have a CEO who says, I don't want United to be the best American airline. I don't want United to be the best airline in the world. I want United Airlines to be the best airline in the history of aviation. Now, something I've got on my wall at home here in my office is a quote from Niccolo Machiavelli, who said, make no small plans, for they have not the power to stir men's blood. And that comes from my side hustle, but it applies here at United Airlines today. For Scott Kirby to say, I want this to be the best airline in the history of aviation, that's a big vision. That's a big plan. That has the power to stir men's blood. I can get behind that. And that, believe it or not, is the micro thing that I was talking about. The macro thing has to do with the color of my hair.
Hmm.
This is white hair. Comes from being on the planet for 61 years. And I've seen some things. And if I have value to bring to the world after I retire from flying and I go full time into speaking and writing, it's because I got 61 years worth of stories that I've paid for with my life. And one of the things that I write about, sort of a theme in my first book, The Symphony of Your Life, has to do with perseverance, determination, getting through the dark ages of the airline bankruptcy era from 9/11 through about 2012. And the more I thought about that as I was writing the book, the more I learned that there's some founding principles, some fundamental principles behind the things that I was discovering as I wrote that book. And one of them is the fact that, Brad, you're alive today. I can see that's true. I'm alive. Um, and I know that you've been through some stuff. I certainly know that I've been through some stuff. And the fact that we are here having this conversation today tells me that we've made it through all that stuff. We've made it. And we've learned from that. And each one of those examples of challenge has put a tool in your tool bag, a tool in my tool bag that I can use to help meet future challenges. Uh, so the fact that I've made it this far gives me hope for the future. That we know the challenges are inevitable. Uh, Plato told us to be kind, for everyone we meet is fighting a hard battle. It tells me something about you today, Brad. You're fighting a hard battle that I don't have any idea about. And that's one of the reasons that I try to keep that in mind. Everybody's fighting a hard battle. Everybody's fighting their battles. But because they've made it as far as they have, that gives me hope that they have what they need to make it through today's battle and tomorrow's battle. And the next battle after that's going to be easier because of the things they've learned today. So, uh, if I had the chance to sit and think some more and write a little bit, I could probably say all that a little bit more eloquently. But the
No
fact is
way.
that we, uh, I'm hopeful that we all have the wherewithal within us. One of the taglines I put in some of my emails and some of one of my speeches is all about, uh, the bottom line is you can. You just need to know you can. I learned that in the Army of all things. When I was a cadet at the Air Force Academy, I had a chance to go to the Army's parachute training jump school down in Fort Benning. And I tell this story from the platform. I won't tell it now, but the bottom line was the jump master had a very powerful way of demonstrating that if we have the understanding that we can keep going as long as we need to, we're probably right.
Hmm.
We can keep going as long as we need to. We can. We just need to know we can. And every day that I get up, every day that I see that reality again, it makes that stronger in me. So
Well, um, Yeah, you're
I'll
good.
stop.
You, my friend, are the right guy in the right job. Zzz. That's plural. Um, Having you in the captain chair makes us all feel good, and you're so good at what you do in this side hustle, which is what you call a side hustle, but it's a hard gig, and you're so very good at it. Here's what I heard. I heard uh, everyone has a story,
Yep.
and people who have as much experience as you have a lot of stories, and you have confidence the story will end well
Yeah.
because you've earned the wisdom to get through those previous stories. How'd I do? Was that pretty good?
That's real good, Brad. You bet. Yeah.
Boom! Tied it up in a
Yeah.
bow. Tell us your website. I'll put it in there. Symphony of Your Life, right?
Of your life, symphonyofyourlife.com. And that comes from,
Yourlife.com.
can I hold up my book?
Oh, heck yeah, please.
This is my
Whoa.
first book, The Symphony of Your
Oh,
Life.
wait.
And
Don't. I messed up. Don't. Hold on. I pushed the wrong buttons. Dang it. There you are. There you are. I'm
there it
sorry.
is. Symphony of Your Life, Restoring Harmony When Your World's Out of Tune. So my website is symphonyofyourlife.com. You can reach me there. My email is mark@symphonyofyourlife.com. Love to hear from all of you, and just say hi that we met on Brad's Facebook Live. And yeah, that's how you get a hold of me.
Judy, I haven't met you yet, but I have the feeling I like you. Um, my name is Brad
You do.
Montgomery.
You do, Brad. You like her a lot.
My name is Brad Montgomery. Mark Hardcastle, I cannot believe this, all the serendipity points that led us to this very same moment. And
Yeah.
I'm just, Chad, very glad to share the planet with you, the Facebook with you, the camera with you, and definitely that airplane with you. Gosh, I hope I get to be on your airplane again.
I hope so too, Brad. Those are all my pleasure to share all those things with you. And I look forward to connecting with you again here real soon.
Let's close with Bruce Pulver, dear friend. Thank you for sharing, Mark, and thank you for having Mark on your show, Brad. Everybody, have a great day. Captain Mark Hardcastle, you rock. Take care.